Hey everyone, guess what? We are here with Tom and Zach of the mighty Howling Giant. Their new album, Crucible and Ruin. I'm not even hard pressed to say it is one of my favorite albums of the fucking year. I cannot tell you how many times I've listened to it. Like, holy shit. Thank you for putting that out.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you for listening to it. That's awesome.
so I went back, I think with Glass Future was my introduction to you guys, right?
Hmm.
So, I went back after Glass Future and listened, and today I wanted to refresh. So I went back and I listened to everything I could find from you guys, and it's really awesome to see the progression that you all have made. And I feel like with Glass Future, you found your feet, and with Crucible and Ruin, you just really capitalized on how fucking awesome all of you are. Like there, I don't think there's a spot in there that someone isn't um, doesn't shine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we made, as we've been growing as songwriters, we were kind of talking about this last night with a buddy. He was listening to our first EP and talking about like the some of the punk stuff that gets introduced and I think when we started writing, we were Tom and I specifically were kind of stepping away from a lot of progressive tendencies. And over the course of our writing career, we've been slowly kind of we don't ever want to go crazy and be like a prog band, but we've been introducing some of those elements back into it. And I think testing the limit of like, all right, how can we do something musically, different than a lot of the stoner and doom scene? We could toss a little bit of Rush in there, but only a certain amount, just to like keep it accessible for people still. And I think as we've been doing that, we have been also figuring out how to like not everybody needs to go crazy at the same time and start shredding, right? It's like it's focusing on each member and finding that time to be like, all right, well, this is time for Bass to let it rip. Tom, Adrian, I can keep it simple and so on and so forth.
I mean, you guys could just everyone go crazy, and then it could be like a free jazz, like Howling Giant.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
if
true.
that's the record you want, but you're asking for it,
Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for.
Listen, I'll fucking listen to it. I'm not I'm into all of it.
Yeah, man. I think it's interesting over a career, like when we started, like Zach was saying, you kind of like, at least for us, we would pull on these like characteristics of a genre. And not to say, they're too on the nose, but I think as you write music, you start to find the tendencies that work for you or work for us. So I think each record's kind of just getting closer to like our sound, what we want to create, rather than like, let's make a song specifically to have a punk vibe, or let's make a song specifically to have the stoner rock vibe. I think it's just slowly becoming more and more just the Howling Giant sound and just things that we like that can come from really any genre. So Crucible and Ruin is probably just the most updated version of what we want to sound like.
that's a really I think that's a really good way to put it. One of the things I always say about a band and like their recordings, or I think a lot of people say it is like that was us in that era, in that time, like captured.
Yeah, and I
And
think when you're a young writer, it's easy to write stuff that's like, if you want to write a stoner song, it sounds just like The Sword or just like Sleep. I love our song Camel Crusher off of the EP, but it's very on the nose, like, this is our attempt at a stoner metal song. You know what I mean? So when they
yeah,
start out being almost like a meme or a caricature of a genre, it's slowly becoming more refined to just, this is the art we're making using those influences.
well, you know, that's where bands really start to find themselves, is trying to, I think, creating songs that are like other artists. Like, ooh, we really like that, and it kind of lets you hone in on, ooh, we like that. Excuse me, that aspect of that. So let's keep that. We don't have to have everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think that we found too, like Tom was talking about something like Camel Crusher, we would focus on a specific genre. And these days, I think we're starting to find ways to be like, oh, maybe this verse should be like that. You know, bits of the song have these characteristics, but we found ways to kind of weave all of that together.
Yeah. Yeah, you really have. And it's so crazy. Like to me, the songs that you write are they are very progressive. You know, like the average beginner musician isn't going to be able to play, I think, a lot of stuff that you guys write, but it's so sing songy. You know, when the lyrics come in, fuck, you want to sing with every single one. It just, at least for me, it captures me and takes me like on that journey, and it's fucking beautiful.
Nice,
Dude,
man.
thank you.
I think there's a value in throwing out a little bit of something, not to say it's simple, but with like the melodies vocally. They're not the most complex, like they're not moving a ton. They are just kind of meant to be like almost kind of poppy or like catchy melodic vocals. And I think that allows us on our instruments to kind of do, not to say like flashier kind of stuff, but we can lean into prog elements as long as the listener has a lifeline like this kind of catchy, almost simple melody. If it was all kind of chaotic or meant to be like we were really trying to impress everyone all the time, it would, I think it would translate as kind of like a mess, like a chaotic, just too much movement, which maybe can be cool depending on what you want as a listener. But I think kind of mixing complexity with simplicity is like finding that balance between those two and see how they can support each other. I think that's a value I see in songwriting for us.
Yeah, and I mean we talk about this all the time because, you know, we're playing shows, we're seeing shows, and we want somebody to walk out of one of our shows and having never seen us before, watching us that night, they leave and something is stuck in their head. There is some identifiable thing that happens, whether it's a guitar lead line or it's a vocal melody, and it's just like, oh man, what was that? You know, we've seen a bunch of bands, and it's awesome where the vibe is all there. It could be like a super doomy band, but I might leave that show and be like, well, I don't really remember any of the songs,
Yeah.
but the vibe was really
Sometimes
cool.
the vibe isn't enough to stay with a new listener. Like it's a lot to expect from a new listener to remember the vibe and hope that's enough to make them want to go listen to the record or put it on. Also, sometimes the vibe at a live show is way different than like, okay, this band was amazing on the stage, but this band isn't what I want to listen to when I'm driving on my way to work, you know. So it depends on the band and the approach, but you know, I think being able to offer a melodic hook is something we try to do.
And I think you do it really well. And it's, you know, everything that you guys do, I think every piece serves the song. It doesn't serve a purpose other than this is how we crafted the song. This is how it's supposed to go. I mean, you know, from the solos to, you know, Seabass fucking and his bass lines and Zach over there with his shit. And now Adrian, you know, welcome to the fold, Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has, you guys have, I don't know. This is what I was thinking about. Speaking of like Adrian just coming to the mix, I wonder like how Crucible and Ruin would have turned out without Adrian. Like, and not, you know, I say that not because I want Adrian to go, but because I feel like Crucible and Ruin is so full of everything you want from like
Yeah.
Howling Giant.
I mean, I think what I can offer is that we did most of the songwriting before Adrian was brought on board. So there'd be a lot of the songs like core and identity and form that would remain the same. But what you'd miss, I think, are a lot of the layers and the depth and the ambience, kind of like a lot of things Adrian added created this like three-dimensional feel where without it, I think the song would still be there, but it wouldn't really feel like a world you can live in the same way. It would be a cool song, maybe. It would have the melody. It would have the verse-chorus format. But I think just a lot of those really cool textures and those things that helped so many of these songs, those were things that he was able to add in the studio in real time. And I think, that kind of approach can only happen when you're coming into it at the stage that he did, being able to come into music that was written and say, where can I fit in?
Yeah.
So I'm excited to write another record with Adrian from the ground up, but it'll be a very different experience of like, how do we incorporate him at like the very beginning rather
Yeah.
than finding room for him after the fact.
Yeah, and I
Well,
think, prior to this, our good buddy Drew did all the keys and synths on all the records up to Glass Future. So the way that we worked with him is same kind of situation. We'd finish the songs, record them, send them his way. He would send back a million different key, synth, organ sounds, and Tom and I would sit up there and chop it all up. Working on synth parts and some extra guitars ahead of time and into the recording process with demos with Adrian involved just a couple months before. There is a little more intent in some of the parts. I think we could talk about it, really figure out what is going to complement this line that Tom's doing or something that Seabass is doing. And like, when is it too much? When is it too little? So there's a little more intent with those parts, which was nice to have. But yeah, again, going into new arrangements, having the ability to have two guitars that can play off each other. Seabass can take up a lot more of a bass role, which is really cool. There's a lot more rhythmic stuff that we can get into now, and we have been just with jamming and making up stuff on the spot. It's just pretty exciting.
hell yeah. Yeah, I'm a little I'm disappointed that I missed the Ancients run completely.
Oh,
I'm like,
Man, it was
no.
sick, dude. Those guys are
yeah,
so good, man. I love Ancients, and they sound fantastic live. So that
yeah.
was that was a great tour, man.
Yeah, it almost too short, you know. They've been covering a lot of the country, but we only got about 3.5 weeks with them there. So we're hoping we can meet up at some point in the future.
That's early 2027 when there's no snow on the ground.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's give it time.
That's
So,
it.
you know, Zach, I think I know your answer. I think I remember when we talked before. Um, I asked like songs that stick out to you, and if I haven't forgotten, you said The Archivist, right?
I think I was talking about probably I think Seabass said Archivist. That was his
Okay.
initially. For me, Scepter and Scythe and I think Archon are like, some of the non-singles stuff that we didn't pick for singles, but I think are still standout songs for me. Like obviously we're proud of this entire record, but there are bits in both Archon and Scepter that are just so fun for me to play and sing. And are super challenging to do so. It took like a lot of extra practice, so I've been hearing them a lot more lately as we're trying to get some of them ready live. But yeah, those songs are super fun.
Oh yeah. What about you, Tom?
Man, it's tough. I feel like so many of these songs have like moments that I love. And it's hard to distill it down to like my favorite songs. But I would agree. I think Archon is that's one that I loved early on, and to see the way it finally ended up on the record was really cool. It wasn't like crazy different from how we had demoed it, but it did kind of take on a little bit different of a character. And so to see the final version of that make it to record was like really cool. I think it turned out like exactly how I was hoping it would, and in a lot of ways kind of better than I was hoping it would. The other one is probably Canyons for me. I mean, I just love that song and that guitar part. So, yeah, I mean it's hard to just pick one though. Like Archivist as well has like these really cool moments. Ones that I'll be honest, I'm dreading doing live. I think vocally and playing is like that'll be a very challenging one, but it'll be sick. So yeah, it's hard to pick, man. I mean, on any given day, I might tell you a different song. So
Yeah. Well, it's much like the album, right? Like this is us in that time, but this is my favorite song at this moment.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ask me again in 10 minutes, it'll be different. I don't know if you all have done this, but I said earlier I was listening to all of your shit earlier. How Glass Future ends and Crucible and Ruin begins there's a continuity between the two that is it's amazing. Like,
Sick. Dude, I haven't given it that run. I haven't. I mean, I'll admit I don't usually put on our own music, but I do want to see what that feels like, because I bet that's a cool shift, especially from a production standpoint, to hear the shift in, I guess, audio quality. But yeah, I bet that's a cool vibe switch.
I did a couple drum streams after Glass Future came out, where there was one where I was like, I will play all of the discography. So that's about the only time I've done something like that. It's been a few years. If I was to do that now, though, it'd be a long stream. It's we're only adding music, and I'm just like, I'm just getting tired listening to all of this and playing it, in a 3 hour drum stream. But maybe we're due for it. It's winter time. I got nothing else to do.
yeah, do it, do it,
Do it.
do it. If he does it, you heard it here first.
That's
Maybe.
right.
That's breaking news,
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
Breaking news. Zach goes wild on the drums for 6 hours with the Howling Giant discography twice.
And he's tired.
He's very tired.
So tired.
Exhausted. So prior, obviously, you guys wrote most everything prior to Adrian. What did writing that look like for you? Like, how did that process happen?
Yeah, it was kind of I feel like it took a shift partway through. We initially were getting back into the writing of Black Hole Space Wizard Part 3, which we will return to at some point. But we started the production for that, or the pre-pro, and I think we just hit a couple, road bumps along the way where we were like, you know what? Let's shift what this is. Some of these riffs and ideas are really sick, but they don't quite fit into this world, the Black Hole Space Wizard Part 3 world. But they did start to, a lot of those riffs and ideas took on an identity and started to kind of almost have these companion songs and ideas. And so I think the record kind of just, I know it sounds very hippie, but in a lot of ways it started to kind of just show itself. We would write these songs and be like, man, this is a new thing. I think there was a moment we had to sit down and say, hey, this idea we jammed is cool, but I think it's supposed to be part of a new record. And I think it's supposed to be part of something with this other song.
There are a few songs that never made it onto Glass Future from those writing sessions too, that now, that seem to start vibing with some of the stuff we were working on in pre-production for the Part 3. And, I mean, Beholder 1 was one of those. We wrote that one a long time ago while working on Glass Future, and it just kind of never felt like it fit. And then as soon as the other songs started to materialize around this one, we were like, oh man, that's actually a really cool vibe, and started talking concept, lyrical concept, all that good stuff. And it really just kind of locked in.
I think sometimes it just comes, those things can come together. Sometimes a record just kind of shows you it's there. Again, I know that sounds super hippie-ish, but you'll write these songs and these riffs, and it'll be like, man, these are obviously companion pieces. And we have some songs and riffs that we've written that I never really became anything, unfortunately, but I think it's because it didn't find a home with other things, and the right album didn't materialize. But Crucible and Ruin just kind of, in a lot of ways, just came together. That mix of intentionally creating something versus just kind of stepping into, that's where the creative moment led us, and it kind of became a thing.
It's, you keep saying it's like a hippie thing. Maybe it is. I don't know, but I feel like everything kind of at its core, when it's right, you feel it, and this is where we're going, from creating a song and a new album to literally what direction I need to go.
Well, and I think for us, we really try to create records that have a singular feel, that have I want a record to feel like that is the piece of art, not just any individual song on it. I hope you enjoy the individual songs, but Glass Future was very much that was the art. Crucible and Ruin, this whole record is the art, and we just named the individual songs. And I think because we push for that, they have this kind of connected feeling, and they feel a little, bigger than just a record of songs thrown in just because you have them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
They're kind of carefully chosen and written in that way.
yeah, and we just, speaking of the discography, there are these moments that we all learned from as we've progressed. And like Black Hole Space Wizard 2 specifically was one where we were writing for that EP, and we spent like over a year and a half trying to get Earth Wizard right. Some of the other songs fell together, but like we were just kind of very obsessed with working on this one song where like we're not doing that as much anymore. If there's a song that's not fitting, it's like we're
Don't
not going to
make it fit.
sacrifice, don't make it fit. We're not going to sacrifice. And, I should say, I love how Earth Wizard turned out, but I think that writing process was so much longer than everything else that we've dealt with. Now we're very focused on like again the record in the moment. This was us right here, and having a long stretching concept at this point is great. But three has become harder to write because of that, where we're trying to make sure can wrap everything else that
There
we've been
will come a
working on.
time when I think we just have to put it out. Like we just
Right.
have to make it. It's becoming almost like we're putting it on a pedestal for ourselves of like, man,
Sure.
it has to be perfect and it has to fit with something that we wrote like 10 years ago.
Well,
But it
and
also has to provide something
yeah.
new. So it's a weird position to put ourselves in, but I think it's a noble quest, you know?
And there are still a handful of songs that we kept for Black Hole Part 3. So there's stuff that has been written outside of lyrics and stuff that at least fits some of this concept. There's probably 20 minutes worth of music so far that we're keeping off to the side there. Obviously, we'll revisit that and we might listen to a song and be like, nah, screw it, scrap that. We'll do something else. But, you know, some of that still exists, and maybe we're a little more ahead of that than we think, but who knows? We'll revisit it
Maybe
tomorrow and hate it.
this is the album. Maybe three is the album that is always talked about and never like gets released, but you
Man, I would
play
hate for that to
parts of it
become the
live.
thing.
We're always thinking about it, but yeah, who knows when it'll be done at this point.
Someday, by God, we are going to make part 3. I can't say when, but it will exist.
Yeah.
Or
Oof.
you know what? Maybe you only do like one record and it's just a solid gold record of part three and you have to sell it for millions of
What's the
dollars.
Wu Tang record that like only exists in like
That,
a?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Is that the
that's
reference right there? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's exactly it. Because I gotta think, did I think Martin Shkreli bought it and
Yeah.
he got in a bunch of
What a
trouble and then
scam!
they ended up auctioning it off and I think it sold for like $6 or $7 million.
Jeez.
How wild is that? And I obviously like this is the since we're talking about that album real quick, that's the everything I've read and heard about it is the production is complete garbage. It's like it is so like bare bones,
The fear
nothing.
is that you hype something beyond what's deliverable, and then you self sabotage by putting out something just not good. Like that's what I want to make sure does not happen with part 3. I'm a big Song of Ice and Fire fan, Game of Thrones, you may know it
Sure.
as. And I think I'm accepting at this point that we're never going to get those final books from George R. R. Martin. And I think it's because they've become just too big. I think that the idea is too big to accomplish.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, what was it? Guns N' Roses, Chinese Democracy. How long did that record take to get together? Like 30 years or something like that. And then it was just,
What a letdown.
yeah, a pretty big letdown.
Yeah.
so brace yourself now for Black Hole Space Wizard Part 3. Let's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
keep it, you know.
Just we probably need to start going, it's the worst thing you're ever gonna hear. Real basic. We weren't great at writing songs. So when it comes out, the only way to go is up.
That's it.
That's right. So when Seabass records all of it as his trap record, then everyone will be quite stoked, I'm assuming.
Yes. Now if Seabass doesn't have a trap record come out in the next like 3 years, I'm gonna be upset.
I don't think that's a concern. We don't need to worry
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
that's gonna happen for sure.
Yes. So you guys did something different recording this album too, right? Like I think everything else you had done like home studio
Yeah.
style, and this you went somewhere.
This was the first time we did a proper studio experience. We went to our buddy Neil Turi's place, Amish Electric Chair Studios in Athens, Ohio. He did the Horse Burner record, well, actually, the last two Horse Burner records. And that was just one of those where we had a little budget from the label for kind of the first time ever. And we had been doing the home recording just kind of out of necessity, which was awesome. And we could schedule whenever, you could knock out a song a night over here. Everyone has to go to work, and then just come over and we were able to piece the record together. And my wife mixed all of those as well. So now going into a studio, locking in kind of lent itself once again to the this is where we are in this moment, idea of making records. And Neil did such a great job. He's an awesome producer as well, like really good ideas on the spot. We got some really great just sounds all around, great guitar tones, good drum sounds. And yeah, we had a blast. It was really cool to lock in. The pressure was definitely increased quite a bit in like, all right, we only have this amount of time. We have to get it done. That was a little intimidating, I think.
How much time did you guys give yourself for
It was
recording?
we were doing 10 days there. And then we went back 2 weeks after that to finish up some vocals just for a long weekend, pretty much. So we ended up flying in a few vocal tracks that we wanted to redo. My wife, Kim, re-recorded a few things here and there just so we could make sure everything was locked the way we wanted it. But I mean, the first 10 days were like, that was the bulk of the work.
God, how long were those? How long were those days?
I mean, it kind of depends. I did all the drums in the first 3 days, and I would probably get in. I'd take a second in the morning, just like have some breakfast and coffee, and just try to loosely warm up a little bit. We'd get going around 10.
We were probably like 9 or 10 to midnight.
Nine
Was
or 10,
probably
yeah,
what it was.
midnight. There were a few nights that we went in at a little past midnight, but it was never like super crazy. Yeah. So I think I just reached a certain limit of how many energy drinks I could crush towards the end of the day to keep myself going versus like when does the performance suffer, and we did pretty good about like trading in and out if somebody needed a break. So that was, always helpful.
Yeah, that's real nice about like single tracking, right? Like, okay, we're not doing this all live. You can, take your time, do your thing. Well, especially as a drummer, like that is such a that instrument is so like physically demanding.
I think there's like a sweet spot you want to find, though, in my opinion. Like, you don't want to stack the record with too many small building blocks, like when you're doing single tracking, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I think there is an element of like live performance that you want to make sure you capture. So the way we did that, we would play along with Zach, like basically a live drum track. We did play to a click on most of the songs, but like, it was a take start to finish where it wasn't like chopped up. We wanted to get a real performance. So it's that
Yeah.
sweet spot of like capture the real performance that can breathe a little bit, and then go back in and add the layers you want to. But that
Yeah, because some of those takes for you and Seabass, we ended up keeping in there with layers. So like some of that stuff, just tracking as the three piece at the time because it was before Adrian could make it to the studio. I mean, that's the way we've always done it. Get the band take first and then kind of start stacking from
Mhm.
there. So
Yeah, I mean that's gotta doing it that way has got to lend itself to the sound that you all have, though, right? Because that sound isn't just tones of the instrument; it's also how you all play together.
yeah, it's a little
Yeah,
more cohesive, I think.
I think it depends on your mission statement as a band. Some bands are like super, super to the click. Like everything is so like quantized and precise. And that can be cool if you're in like maybe a tech metal genre or something like that. It's very precise and very, computerized. For us, I think part of our sound is very much like we want it to feel like there's a little bit of live performance there. It's a little bit of what you'll see when you come to a Howling Giant show. You know, you're going to get that same energy. But that's not a one-size-fits-all for all bands. That's something I think for us that we hold true, though.
Sure. No, and you're right. Like I think every band has their own thing, you know, and it's the great thing about all the bands is that they all don't, you know, everyone doesn't do it the same way. Because if they did, you'd have the same thing. It'd be boring.
It's a breath of fresh air when you listen to a band that's like no click and like lets it be a little raw. You know, it's when you listen to a band that's really good but not perfect and they played together live, there is something like really sick about that. And I'm like, man, that is awesome. There is a perfectionist part of myself that's like, I want it to be as laser tight as it can be, though, while still having that live element. Yeah. So, you know, you just got to find that balance.
Yeah. We were at Exit In Saturday night for a tech death show. And it was, you know, I was talking to a buddy of mine. He's like, dude, I'm waiting for the guitar player from, I think the Zenith Passage. I'm waiting for him to fuck up because I swear to God, he's you know, they're playing all backing tracks, and I'm watching him, and he fucked up, and I was like, oh, he's really that good. I probably need to go practice. Like, oh shit. You
Sometimes the mistake tells you, you know, you get to see beyond the veil.
It's, you know, and I think that's the cool thing about live shows too, is there's always going to be something somewhere that's missed or something added. So like you watch the band and you're maybe everyone else doesn't like it, but I'm like, okay, I'm really listening to the song because I want to know who fucks up where. Just because that moment I'm like, all right, cool, they're human, I'm good. Like we can do this.
Well, I think just changing the live show up and like, you know, I will do it in goofy ways just to catch the boys off guard, where I will throw in it. Tom knows it's coming, but Adrian and Seabass will be like, what? When I'll throw in the fill from Santana and Rob Thomas's Smooth. If I can find a way in a show to cram that in somewhere, you know, I feel like you try to trip each other up a little bit, you know?
That's like,
at least
that's
Zach
good shit.
It's a little more fun.
Zach's like, watch this. And they're like, what the hell's going on? I don't
Well,
know.
also like it's just like a bit of improv with the live shows in like a band Gozu, where like Gaff would sometimes change some of those melodies on the spot, but then seeing someone like Seth doing all the vocal harmonies, latching onto what he's doing and able to follow and do the same thing is like sort of amazing. It's not what you're getting on the record, but like you're seeing two dudes in real time just like improv, figure something out, and it sounds good, you know. That's exciting.
Well, I think people go see a live show to see the live show. If they, at least I do, right? Like if I want to listen to the record, I can just put it on at home.
Yeah.
You know what? It needs to be a little bit different. So let's touch on that Ancients tour a little bit more. What was your guys' favorite part of that tour?
Man, tough one. I feel like there were so many awesome moments. Brooklyn was really sick, just a great turnout, a lot of great energy, and a lot of great friends. It's hard to just pinpoint one moment. I think more so getting the opportunity to perform night after night with a band as kind of tight as Ancients is, and just being such good dudes. At least for me, there's always a lot that we can learn about how to do this business. Like, how do you be in a band and still have fun? How do you be in a band and still strive for this level of like quality in your performance and that balance with the quality of lifestyle, right? So it's hard to pick like an individual moment, but I could pick a couple great shows, namely Brooklyn, I think was just awesome. Really cool to go back to some of these cities we've been, playing at for a while and see them grow and see them develop from kind of the hard work, Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Brooklyn was one. I think the Alabama show was actually sick because it was going to be, it started out, we were like, man, I don't know how this vibe's going to be. There was like no sound system.
We also didn't know
Um,
when we were supposed to load in. Like nothing was advanced, so we just kind of showed up and wandered around. Yeah, no sound system. It was
no
at a
info.
brewery, just
The,
nothing.
and then the other bands were like they were just really young, like basically in hardcore bands. And I think where I was surprised is it turned out to be like super fun, and the kids in these other bands were like they were awesome and they were pumped, and the crowd was like really excited, and a very different kind of audience. It was a way more, DIY kind of scene, which is something that we grew up playing, but I think hadn't really played in for a while. So it felt like a cool kind of like we're revisiting the style of shows we used to play like
Hmm.
a decade ago. You know what I mean? And it was a great turnout, and everybody was super kind. And I do think we kind of reached into a little bit different of an audience because of that show. So that was a really interesting like way to balance out something like Brooklyn, which is, you know, the sign of a market we've hit so many times where we've seen the growth, we've seen the quality of venue and the fans come out. So yeah, it was fun. There were so many good moments.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, Chicago also awesome show. We love going through, but it was man to be able to finally see Huntsman live too, play with them. They were awesome. They were
Dude, yeah, and man, was the bartender at that bar in goddamn Gallows?
yeah. He's
Dude,
the singer. Yeah,
what
yeah,
a what a man, that guy was awesome. I
yeah.
loved him. And we had met before, but it had been so long. I think we played a show with him at Springwater with like Weed Eater like years ago or something like
Yeah.
that. Um so yeah, man. I mean, dude, he was such a kind man, and the scene was great, and that place like packed out, dude. I didn't think the venue was that big. But once you crammed all those people in, I was like, man, this place is for real.
Oh yeah. For as cold as it was in a lot of these places as we were going through, the venues were hot and sweaty. That's for sure.
Yeah, I feel like they, especially from a performer, it's going to be like hot and sweaty. But, you cram people in, and what do you get? You get the fucking hot breath and all the farts and,
That's what you're
all the
paying
shit
for. You
that
pay
really,
extra for
That's
that.
right. That's the live show.
yeah, it really warms the venue up. So how do you guys feel like the reception to Crucible and Ruin has been?
It's been great. I mean, it's only been out for just over a month now. So I feel like you could kind of see some people familiarizing as we played some of the new songs live over the course of that tour. So I'm excited to get out next year and play more of the new tunes and see how they land live, you know.
So when we played a couple of the new songs way back, when we played Hop Smoker Fest. So when was that? That would have been
March, April,
like,
April.
yeah. So
Yeah.
basically performing new music that hadn't been released in any fashion yet. We would just say, hey, can we play some new music? And people really enjoyed it, but it's like when people are listening to something totally new, I think they're just standing and like taking it in. So to see now that we've released the record, those same people come out, and now it's like they're familiar with the music, and a lot of these fans are singing the words as well. And it is like, oh, sick. Like these songs are hitting, these songs do work live. Um, it's that really cool growth that you see as someone listens to the record. And I think throughout this tour, we saw it more and more from start to finish, because we basically released the record and then left for tour like pretty much
Yeah.
immediately. So yeah, like a week or two in, it was like you could see that effect.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think the response has been great, which is awesome.
It's got to be really cool to see, like, to see the crowd like catch on to the album as you're out there playing, like, oh shit, they know the lyrics now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you also get an idea of like what songs do people like versus what songs do we like, which is a different, lens entirely. Like when we're releasing a single, quote unquote, that's kind of our best guess at like what someone might want to listen to. So then when you put out a record and they're like, "No, actually, this is the song we love." And it's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, cool." You learn something about people's tastes and what they like about your music. So yeah, it's
What's
just a cool experience.
so what song, like, now that you brought that up, what song stuck out to you that people said, "Oh, I really, this was the song for me on the album"?
Well, I think that like I knew people would like Beholder too, but I didn't know if it was like a single worthy kind of song. But that's probably been the biggest one. People have been like, "Man, you guys like I want to hear this one. You got to play Beholder
The other
2."
is Archivist,
And the
like,
other is
yeah,
Archivist, which
yeah.
is, it's a sick song, but it's kind of that sprawling, vibey thing, which I should know better at this point. That is the kind of song that a lot of these fans want. Um, yeah, it's really cool to see people be like, "Hey, I love the singles you put out, but Archivist and Beholder 2, those are the songs," So it's interesting. That's been my
Yeah.
experience anyway. Those two.
I could absolutely see that. Like, you know, Beholder 2 is one of those, like, what a great way to end the album because it is so like epic and like cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
You can like visualize everything through it. It's to me it's how I envision like movies ending, right?
Well, and I
Like,
think that there's a similar approach that we had with like Glass Future with There's Time Now is like we love that song and it has some anthemic qualities, but you don't really want to release a song like that as a single. Like there is a certain kind of like let people discover this song when they listen to
yeah,
the record, especially
Hmm.
with a closer. I think at this point we usually try to end it with some kind of, statement that summarizes the whole record or some kind of moment of I don't know. I think Beholder 2 just felt like this is a song that should be just listened to in the context of the record and let people get there rather than put it out
right.
as a single.
Well, that and There's Time Now. They're both um, so conclusive to the album.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that album coming to that conclusion, and the for if that if either of those songs were in another spot on the record, it wouldn't work. You
Mm-hmm.
know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
What is the? I think they say like you have to start and end strong, and not that what happens in the middle doesn't matter, but it's like you want to make sure your ending song offers some sort of closure. I think that's like kind of the whole point with a concept record. And I think for us, that's a lot of the point of creating a record that we view as a singular piece of art. Is it has to start out with a statement and it has to end kind of reinforcing that statement. And then what happens in between is like that's the journey, and that's where you can kind of explore and stretch out and try different things. But I think at this point, that's kind of been one of the pieces of the formula for record creation for us.
hmm, that's that's a good way to look at it. Huh. I never thought about it like that. But if you're telling a story and there's no like conclusion, it's you're
Mm-hmm.
like, what the fuck?
It feels cool. I don't know if you feel this way, but there are some records I'll listen to that I will love, and the end kind of sneaks up on you, and it just feels like it's just done. And it's like maybe it didn't end with the strongest song, or maybe it didn't end with this, that, or the other. I think that we like to create some sort of arc as far as a story and as far as like vibe and themes go. So I think like the way you choose to end a record is, that should be carefully chosen.
Yeah, that's why you guys are special. One of the reasons, you know what
We're
I
very
mean?
special
Like,
boys.
Lots of reasons. Yeah.
and
We are
I don't
artistic.
mean like eating crayons, licking windows special,
We
but
might do some of that though.
me too. So whatever. Um, no, you guys, the way that you all work together, the sound that you've created, the songs that you create, there's not another band in my mind that does something similar. Like other bands do pieces of it, right? And can do those pieces really well, but the way that again, you guys like just come together, like the sum of all the parts is it's fucking fantastic. I don't know any other way to put it, but
Thank you.
god damn, it's
Well,
fantastic.
man, thanks for listening. Thanks for checking it out, and that means a lot. We appreciate that.
Yes, I'm not gonna keep you guys. I know you got shit to do. I will ask what shows do you have coming up that you have announced already?
Yeah. So we have announced our West Coast run with Insomniac. That is all on our social media, all that good stuff. The venues have announced they're having ticket links up on their website and all that good stuff. We'll get those compiled into a big list on our website shortly. Um, we've announced a few European festivals. We're finishing up the routing for that tour in May as well. Got some small stuff happening next summer, and then we're working on hitting all the rest of the markets that we will have not hit in a while, between Europe and West Coast. So a lot more US touring to be had. Hopefully more Europe after that. But now with the record out, we got to go play it. So yeah.
Hell yeah, that's super cool. Have you guys been to Europe before?
Once before, yeah, we went in 2023 with Heavy Temple.
Fuck yeah,
That was awesome.
that's super cool. All right, uh, Tom, Zach, thank you both so fucking much for your time, and thanks for the music. I can't wait to see you guys live again.
Dude, thanks so much.
Yeah, man. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us. That was super fun. We'll see you out
Hell
there soon.